Hi there my lovelies, this is Jana here, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to make something so simple you're not going to believe. It's going to look like you've been slaving in the kitchen for hours, but in fact it's faster than putting together a whole meal. We're going to make a savory tart and we're going to fill it with a lot of goodness, some freshness because spring, hello! So you're going to love it. Plus, if you don't like aubergine or eggplant, depends on where you live, this dish is sure going to change your mind. If it doesn't, I don't know what will. Maybe, perhaps my sandwich that I have made before. And to start with this dish, we're going to make a savory short crust pastry or a pâté brisé. And again, also super simple. But if you don't want to use a homemade short crust pastry, you can use a store-bought. And then if you don't want to use that, you can use filo pastry or puff pastry. And to a bowl, we're going to add some flour and cold butter and some salt. I like to grate the butter sometimes because it's easier, but you can cut it in small cubes. It has to be very, very cold. And then you incorporate everything. It's going to look like a loose crumble. That's supposed to happen. You add 1 or 2 tablespoons of cold water. It has to be cold. And now we're going to wrap it in a cling film and put it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. Easy so far, isn't it? So while the pastry is resting in the fridge, we're going to grill the eggplants. I don't salt them before because I think it works very well using this grilling method. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to slice them into half a centimeter thick slices. And we are going to grill it. I'm going to use my grill because I want that charred grill marks because the aubergine is going to be exposed, so it's going to be extra cute. But if you don't have one of those, you can use a regular pan just with a little bit of oil and some salt. And grill them on medium heat until they're golden brown on both sides. And reserve. And also, I'm going to use some cherry tomatoes because I happen to love them. They're beautiful and colorful, and here they're always in season. So I have access to them. They're super sweet, and for this dish is perfect. And then I'm going to add some salt and some pepper and a little bit of olive oil and reserve. Now, do you love onions? I absolutely love onions. I am going to add some onions. If you don't want to, you don't have to. If you want to saute the onions before you putting in a pie, wonderful, works well too. But I like the onions and I like the crunchiness when they're a little bit raw. So for me, it's perfect. And along with that, we're also going to add either basil, but I felt like adding sage because I love sage. I think it's a little bit wintry and I don't know, I love it. But you can use basil or you can use even oregano. That's totally up to you. You are going now to remove the pastry from the fridge and we're going to open it. It's not necessary to flour the surface because this pastry has a lot of oil. What I like to do is to make a cross using the rolling pin. This way it's easier to spread. Now, one of the beauties of this dish is that it's supposed to be perfectly imperfect. You know, it's rustic, so there's no wrongdoing here. The way you put it together is the way it's going to look, and it's going to look beautiful no matter what you do. So don't try to, my advice, so don't try to make it look pretty because that's not necessary. Now we're going to assemble it and going to put it in the oven, and that's it. brush the sides of the pastry with a mixture of ketchup and mustard and water or oil, because the combination of those three is going to guarantee that this side here, this excess pastry, if you will, it's going to be super crusty and super brown. Now, super golden actually. Now, add a little bit more of the herbs and finish with the tomatoes, because I think it's extra pretty this way. And we're going to put it in the oven, and that's that. Hi there my lovelies, this is Jana here, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make the perfect Sunday roast that is going to wow everybody, super tasty and so unexpected, so beautiful, and of course super simple. We're going to make a roasted cabbage filled with a vegan meat. You're going to love it. So follow me and I'll show you. So first things first, we're going to start with what we're going to fill the cabbage with, which is the TVP. I absolutely love using TVP. To me, it's easy to find, and I think for you too, because it's one of the first vegan meats available in the market. But you can use mushrooms, you can use anything. However, if you use my TVP recipe, please click over there and check out my method. It is super, super useful. And now I have had it frozen, by the way. So I always make it in batches and then I freeze them. Perfection. Now you put it on a skillet, and to that we're going to add ground flax seeds, because it's going to act like an egg. It's going to glue everything together. And all-purpose flour. Now it's very important that you cook the flour, because otherwise your food is going to taste like wallpaper paste. We don't want that, God forbid. So cook the flour thoroughly. That will be, you're going to be stirring for about 3 minutes in a very low heat, okay? And once it's done, you add some fresh herbs. In this case, I am using fresh parsley. And then you set it aside, okay? Now we're going to carve our cabbage. It's super fun. However, you need to be careful. When you carve it, you're going to trim the end. And then you're going to carve it around, but with the knife always away from you, okay? This is a little bit time consuming. It's going to take like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, depending on how sharp your knife is and how skilled you are. But do not throw away the cabbage that you're going to remove from inside. You can make a very nice soup or freeze it, and then for later use, please don't throw it away. by the way, I forgot to show it in a video, but you have to salt it all the way inside, okay? And a little bit outside as well, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit bland. And of course, that's not what we're aiming for. All right, and for our cabbage to look extra crispy and extra charred and beautifully roasted, we're going to make a glaze, a savory glaze that is. We're going to add, in a small bowl, we're going to add ketchup, vegan mayo, any kind of oil of your preference, soy sauce, and then you mix it. All right, now we're going to fill the cabbage with the TVP or whatever kind of a filling that you made. It can be, like I said, mushrooms, a mixture of both. You can mix a little bit with rice. It works well. Just pick yours. If you want to follow my recipe, again, click over there. It's super easy to make. And we're going to fill the cabbage all the way through, okay? And then we're going to preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius, that will be 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to put the cabbage in. We're going to cover it with a foil, aluminum foil, okay? And then we're going to put the cabbage in, and it's supposed to cook to roast for 20 minutes, okay? This is step one. All right, now that our cabbage is roasted, we're going to prepare some very beautiful wintry vegetables. It can be, again, the vegetables. I'm choosing root vegetables, but it can be the vegetables of your choice. That's what I had laying around here in the kitchen. It was a little bit of a leftover from Christmas. I have Brussels sprouts, carrots, red onion, and potatoes. Super simple, isn't it? So we're going to add them to a bowl. And to that, we're going to add black pepper, salt, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, tomato paste, and fresh thyme. And we're going to mix well. All right, now that your cabbage have been roasting for 20 minutes, we're going to remove it from the oven, remove the foil, add a little bit more of a glaze, and then add the vegetables that we just prepared around in a large baking sheet. It doesn't matter if the cabbage is small. When you're roasting vegetables, this is a very important tip, okay? When you're roasting vegetables in the oven, it is very important that they have some space between each other for two reasons. First, it's because if they're cramped, if they're all together, they're going to sweat, and the steam is going to go around and it's not going to roast properly. And because of that, it's not going to brown and it's going to take longer. So if you keep them separated from each other, then you are going to achieve that beautiful Maillard effect that we like so much. Perfect. then you put it back in the oven, but this time at 185 degrees Celsius. That will be 365 degrees Fahrenheit for approximately 50 minutes to 1 hour. You know your oven. It is supposed to be really blackish on the top and around. That doesn't mean that it's burned. It's a little bit charred, and that's exactly what we want, because a cabbage, it can handle very high temperatures, and cooking is moment of knowledge. It's about time and temperature in 99% of the cases. So if you can control that, and if you know what you're cooking and for how long, and in this case the cabbage can hold very high temperatures. Hi there, my lovelies, this is Jana here. Welcome to my channel. So today we're going to make, ta-da, a very beautiful, very comforting food. As always, we like to do things this way on this channel, which is a Lancashire Hotpot, and oh, it looks so nice. So follow me and I'll show you how I put it together. Alright, so now we're going to start by heating a little bit of oil, and we're going to brown the mushrooms. Now, for your mushrooms to become golden brown easier and faster, it's nicer if you do that in batches, as in you add a little bit of the mushrooms, and then once they're done, they're supposed to be very, very golden brown, okay? And then you remove them from the pot, put it in a plate, and then put another batch of the raw mushrooms, and so on until you have no more raw mushrooms left, because this way you're going to ensure that the mushrooms are going to cook thoroughly, and they're going to taste much better. Like they're going to caramelize. That's what's going to happen. Alright, so now we're going to fry the chopped onions until everything is golden. Now you add the garlic. And the sliced carrots. Two bay leaves and fresh thyme, and sprinkle a little bit of flour, all-purpose flour, and allow it to cook for about 2 minutes. Now we're going to add the brown mushrooms, Worcestershire sauce, the vegetable broth, salt, pepper, the smoked paprika, and oregano, and let it simmer for a few minutes. Now you're wondering, oh, but Worcestershire sauce is not vegan because it contains anchovies. True, that's correct. However, you can make your own and make it vegan. How about that? So click over there because I made one and it's like really easy and it lasts for a long time in the fridge. And so this is one of my kitchen staples. I use that all the time, and you're gonna do the same, I think. Alright, so now we're going to transfer the stew into a baking dish. And now we're going to slice some potatoes. I like to do it last because I don't want them to get to turning brown. And I also don't like putting them in water because then they get too wet. So I like to do it at this point. If you want to do it really fast, you can use a food processor because I think that the thinner they are, I think that the crunchier they get and the faster they're gonna cook once they are in the oven. So that's what I did, but you can choose. Now you arrange that on the top of your stew by overlapping them. Make it pretty. And now we're going to drizzle or brush a little bit of vegan melted butter. And a few sprigs of fresh thyme. Now, 5 or 6 minutes before the end of the cooking time, we remove the aluminum foil or the lid, and then if you want, you can brush a little bit more of vegan butter on top, and then you put it under the broil for 5 or 8 minutes or until it becomes golden brown, because this part is going to caramelize the potatoes, and this is going to add that extra crunchiness and that extra mylar effect that we love so much. And voila, ready!
The water's rising, the dam is breaking in. It was bound to happen, 'cause your heart is caving in.
Hi there, my lovelies, this is Jana here, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to make a very interesting dish that it looks very fancy, but it couldn't be easier. We're going to make an onion and sun-dried tomatoes tart tatin with feta cheese, vegan that is, of course, always vegan. And you're going to love it because it's so nice, it's so unexpected. I know it's a kind of a wintry dish, but I wanted to make it anyway. So you can blame me because it's delicious, and you'll see. Now, let's start by the pastry. You have two options. You can use the good old puff pastry, make sure it's vegan, that you buy at the supermarket, and or you can use a short crust pastry, because the savory one, that is, okay? Because although there are hints of sweetness in this tart, we are not aiming for sweetness, so it's supposed to be the savory kind. And it always has to be cold before we put it in the oven, but we're gonna cover that later. And meanwhile, we're going to spread it. You are going to measure the baking dish that you're going to use, and then you're going to measure because it's supposed to be tucked in inside because it's going to be upside down, okay? All right, so now that you puff pastry or your short, this is a difficult word, short crust pastry. That's a very difficult one for me. So put it in the fridge, okay? Because if it's at room temperature, it's not gonna brown properly. Yeah, that's right. All right, so now we're going to make the onions. And for this tart, you're not supposed to, I think it looks better if it's small onions like that because it's cuter. And then you're going to cut in half. But if you have regular onions like the medium size, it all depends on how big your pan is, okay? Keep that in mind. But if you have the bigger ones, you cut them in quarters, okay? Because so this way they're gonna fit better your pan. And since this dish is so easy and so simple to make, there are a few things that we're supposed to pay attention, such as the presentation. So whatever you put in the bottom of your pan, because it's going to be upside down, it's what people are going to be able to see it. So be very careful in that part. Now, we're going to rub a lot of vegan butter, unsalted that is. And then we're going to sprinkle some sugar. Don't worry, it's not going to be sweet, it's just going to help the onions to caramelize better. And now we're going to let them do their thing for about, I don't know, it all depends. It all depends on your stove, it all depends on everything, but what we're aiming for here is that beautiful, almost charred, caramelized bottom, not burned, okay? It's not supposed to be black or dark brown, it's supposed to be medium to, medium brown, okay? Because it's still going in the oven, so keep that in mind. And all right, and now we are going to add layers in between those onions of sun-dried tomatoes. I cut them mine a little bit because they were too big, and that's that. Also, which is what is very, very, very good with onions are either fresh thyme, fresh oregano, or my favorite, fresh sage. So you can choose, or you can combine the three of them. The only one that I'm not so much of a fan is dried herbs. But if you don't have any other options and you want to add it, add the dry herbs, but a little bit less, okay? Because they're a little bit more, they're a little bit stronger. All right, so now we're also going to sprinkle a little bit of feta cheese. This one is Violife. Now, if you don't want to use or you don't have access to this cheese here, the Violife kind, you can use any kind of cheese, but it's supposed to be a little bit stronger because it's supposed to balance out, or not to balance actually, to contrast with the sweetness of the onion. So something a little bit more savory and salty will go even better. Don't forget, speaking of salt, don't forget to salt your onions once they're caramelizing. All right, so now we're going to tuck in our puff pastry. We're going to make some small incisions on the top so it doesn't puff out while in the oven. Put it in a preheated oven, and that's that. That's that. How amazing is that? This is a perfect dish for a brunch, don't you think? I love brunches. That's why I mention in every video brunches, because I love it. I love breakfast, but brunch is a little bit more something in between lunch and breakfast. That's why it's called a brunch. Yeah, I know. All right, so now that your pie or your tart is ready, we're going to remove it from the oven, and we are going to flip it. So that is the time that when you believe in God, you say a prayer. But nothing's supposed to happen because a lot of butter. But if once you flip it and something some jumper, you have a jumper, just put it back in. Because on top now, we're going to sprinkle a little bit more feta cheese to help with the extra savoriness and some extra fresh thyme. So this is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed it. This is one of my favorites by far. I love it. Oh, by the way, before I go, if you want to add some caramelized onions, I have a recipe for that over here. Click over here. You can add to it. Or you can substitute for the sun-dried tomatoes or add it along with everything. That is to die for. If you have the if you want to make the caramelized onions, or if you already have it in your fridge or in your freezer, do it because it's super delicious. And this is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed this recipe. If you make it, tag me on Instagram and Facebook. I love when you do that. Absolutely love it. And follow me on my social media and give this video a thumbs up because I deserve it. And I'll see you next time. Have a fabulous week. Bye.